Sorry for the technical difficulties. We continue with the survivor stories.
Factories in the industry in Colombo, of all things to be destroyed, it was the wrong thing. They were, in my factory, just cutting off their own noses because Chilaga meats industry, but the cotton mills were ablaze. The coconut oil mills were ablaze. Hotels that they picked, which were Tamil owned, they firebombed.
Well, we were in Trincomalee when it started, and there must have been a lot of raging fires in the town. There was a lot of gunfire. The next morning we went into the town. Fires were still burning pretty fiercely. And the thing was entirely sectarian. I mean, if you were a Tamil, you were in trouble. If you weren't a Tamil, it was rather like being in Ulster. There was no war going on unless you were one side or the other. We then had to take a different route back to Colombo. And again, it's wherever the Tamils appeared to be in the minority was where there was some pretty fierce carryings on.
Would you go back there?
Oh, very much. Absolutely beautiful island. It's just so sad to see it being destroyed in this way.
Anti-Tamil riots and chaos erupted on July 23, 1983 in Sri Lanka, a pear-shaped island off the coast of India. The state-sponsored pogrom left a black mark on the country's history and the minds of many. The riots were carried out by mobs of Sinhalese, with the complicity of the Sri Lankan government, who targeted Tamil homes and businesses. The hardest hit parts of the country were areas where Tamils lived amongst the predominant Sinhala population. Colombo, the nation's capital, was badly affected, and the violence spread to Kandy, the hill capital, Nuwara, Badula, Bandaravala, Matala, Negombo, and many other parts. However, the impact of Black July has affected the entire island. The violence was sparked after the burial of 15 soldiers who were ambushed by Tamil militants in the north, perhaps in retaliation to the systematic oppression of the minority Tamils by the government of Sri Lanka.
I believe it was the Sunday that the bodies of the 13 soldiers were supposed to come to Colombo. And prior to that, we didn't hear much about it, but we were aware that 13 soldiers had been killed, and the bodies were coming to Colombo.
Black July கலவரம் நடக்கிறதுக்கு முதல் நாள் நான் எனது தலைமையில் வெட்டுவதற்காக ஒரு சலூனில் போயிருந்தேன். அப்பொழுது எனக்கு முன்னுக்கு இருந்தவர் நியூஸ் பேப்பரை வாசித்து கொண்டிருந்தார். ஓரளவுக்கு சிங்களம் வாசிக்க தெரிந்ததால் நான் விளங்கி கொண்டேன். திருநெல்வேலியில் பொம் பிளாஸ்ட் பண்ணி கொஞ்சம் ஆர்மி 12 ஆர்மிஸ் செத்ததென்று அறிஞ்சு கொண்டேன். அதுக்கு பிறகு நான் வீட்டுக்கு போய் நியூஸ்களை பார்த்து கொண்டிருந்தோம். நியூஸில் இதுகளை பற்றி எல்லாம் காட்டி கொண்டிருந்தார்கள்.
We were living in Vellavath, and my workplace is in Fort. I have two sons. At that time they were 11 and 9 years old, and they were studying into college Bombapitia. And on the particular date in the morning I heard some news that some of the shops owned by the Tamils in Borolda were looted, and actually they set fire, and the owners were attacked, assaulted. So I told my children not to go to school on that particular date.
We were kind of concerned, okay, does this mean there's going to be an issue in Jaffna? But there's always a thought about something going to happen in Jaffna. It never occurred to us that this could come to Colombo. Because, I mean, Colombo was metropolitan, was the tourist hub. You know, it never occurred to us. So Sunday was pretty much spent, okay, you know what, let's just watch the news, let's be aware of it. I remember hearing on the news that the bodies had arrived and the funerals were going to take place in Colombo. Then Monday morning, one of our neighbors came back from work early. This is early in the morning. He came back from work early and he said, there's problems starting. I think you should take any valuables you have, like jewelry and other stuff that you want to put away safe, and go put it in the local bank. For us, the local bank was the commercial bank. So right away, my mother and my grandmother kicked into high gear. They started packing everything up. It couldn't have been more than half an hour later. My grandfather comes in his bike, on his motorbike, and he goes, "Okay, you know what? You're not going anywhere because the local grocer at the top of the road, it's burning."
நான் அப்போ ப்ரெக்னெண்ட்டாக இருந்தேன் 9 months. அப்போ ஹஸ்பண்ட் வந்து ஒர்க்கு போயிட்டார். நான் பஸ்ஸில் தான் போய் வரேன் சென்ட் கிளாஸுக்கு. அப்போ இவர் சொன்னார், கொஞ்சம் பிரச்சனை போல் இருக்குது, இன்றைக்கு போவேன் அவன்ட்டு. அப்போ லீவ் அடிச்சுட்டு வீட்டை இருந்தேன் நான். 12:40 போல் நாங்கள் நியூஸும் கேட்டுக்கொண்டு லஞ்ச் டேபிளில் இருந்து சாப்பிட்டு கொண்டு இருந்தேன். நாங்கள் இருக்க சத்தம் கேட்டது, அடிச்சு கொண்டு ஆக்கள் கத்தி கொண்டு. எங்கண்ட வீடு வந்து ஒரு ஃப்ளாட், அதில் ஃபர்ஸ்ட் கோனர் ஹவுஸ். அப்போ உடனே ஆக்கள் கத்திக்கொண்டு ஓடிக்கொண்டு வேற, நாங்கள் உடனே பின்னுக்கு ஒரு கொரிடோர், அதுக்குள்ள ஒரு கிச்சன், அதுக்குள்ளே எல்லாரும் போய் இருந்துட்டோம். அப்போ எல்லாரும் கூட என்னத்தான் பயந்த 9 months.
Actually, like we were driving, like the driver was driving, and then all of a sudden he was panicked, and then we were all looking, and then we saw this body hanging on the tree, like, you know, and we didn't know why it happened because we weren't aware of this situation. All of a sudden we saw this body, and then we didn't know what to do. Even the driver didn't know, but then we heard screams and yells of people, and then people were running like on the road, and then everybody was like putting their bikes away, and then motorcycles through it, and then they just started running. They didn't know where they were going to.
So I ran to the kitchen, and then I discovered that these people were trying to come into the house. So I locked and bolted the back door, came to the front of the house where my wife and children were there. And I told them, this is very dangerous, we can't stay here, we had to move out. By that time, you know, the whole row, everywhere people were running around, and there was complete pandemonium.
83 கலவரத்தில் பொருளில் தான் ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணி அப்படியே வந்து கொண்டு இருக்கையில் எங்களுக்கு தெரியும். எங்களுக்கு ஒரு பின்னேரம் ஒரு 2 மணி போல் தான் கொஞ்சம் கும்பல் வந்து அடித்தாங்க, படப்படாண்டு அடிக்கையில். இப்போ நான் சொன்னேன், நான் இந்த சிங்களம் வந்துட்டானம்மா, அப்போ ஓடுங்க எல்லாம் போவோம்ண்டு. அவங்க கரிதமிழையா பழையாம் இதுதான் துவப்பான்னு சொன்னாங்க. நாங்கள் ஓடி ஒளிஞ்சு நான் இந்த வீட்டு சீலிங்குக்குள்ளே ஒளிஞ்சிட்டேன். மேலே ஒரு சீலிங்குக்கு அதுக்குள்ளே ஒளிஞ்சிட்டேன். அம்மா அப்பா தங்கச்சி எல்லாம் பிரிஞ்சிட்டாங்க. பிறகு ஒரு மாதிரி பின்னால் ஒரு ப்ளே கிரவுண்ட் ஒன்று இருந்தார். அதில் இருக்கைக்குள்ளே எல்லோரும் திக்கா போயிட்டோம், மாமா எல்லோரும் போயிட்டோம். பிறகு ஒரு வந்து அடித்தாங்க, தடியாலையும் கல்லாலையும் அடித்து வீடு உடைச்சினோம். வீட்டு கிளாஸ் எல்லாம் சில 2 விழுந்தது. பின்ன என்ன நடந்தேன்டா, பிறகு அம்மா எல்லோரும் பயத்தில் ஓடி வழியாக ஒளிஞ்சிட்டினோம். கடைசியாக ஒரு 4-5 சிங்களன் வந்து எங்களோட முன் ஹோலுக்குள்ளே வந்து பெட்ரோல் பொம்மை போட்டு எரித்தாங்க. எரிக்க வீடு பத்தத்து வாங்கிட்டுது. நிலமெல்லாம் ஒரே கிளாஸுகளும் உடுப்புகளும் எல்லாம் அப்படி சின்ன பின்னமாக ஆயிட்டுது. அப்போ நான் என்ன செய்தேன், பின்னால் அப்பா அம்மா காணையிலன்னு சொல்லி சீலிங்லேருந்து இறங்கிக்குள்ளே தான் எங்களுக்கு தெரிஞ்சது என்ன வீடு எரியுதுன்ட்டு.
The next thing I knew, my mother was shepherding us, shepherding me, my grandmother, and then before you knew it, there was like tens of our neighbors in our house. Everybody was being shepherded by by my mother through a gate in the back of our house, a backyard, to our neighbors. And I remember running through it, and one of the neighbors in the back of our avenue is Sinhalese, and that was my mother's intention, that we would go there for safety. And they saw us coming. You could see them peek through their windows. They saw us coming, and they shut the door. And so my mother quickly changed the route, and she took us across the lane into a house where the front door was open. I didn't know this, but there was a widow who lived in this house, and she was a Sinhalese widow. It just, again, a twist of fate. The front door was open. She never knocked. She never asked permission. She took us in. There was about 16 of us in that house in the front, and this lady came out, and she said, no, it's too many of you. I can't keep too many of you. My mother just kept talking, and I remember her pulling me and putting me in the front of her. I didn't know at that time, but apparently this lady had a soft spot for me, even as a baby. And my mother just kept me in front. And then before I knew what was going on, the lady had acquiesced. She had said yes, and she was taking us into this tiny little storeroom at the very back of the house. And it was this stuff, junk in the storeroom. And there's at that time, I'm thinking there's about 12 or 13 of us, because I know a couple of the men had decided to go back into the houses, to stay with the houses. So there's 12 or 13 of us in this tiny storeroom, men, women, children. And there's this one window, and the double doors were closed. And we stayed in the storeroom for what felt like forever, but was no more than a few hours. It felt like an eternity. Every second ticked, and you could hear the screams, and you could hear the burning, the bombs, the I don't know what kind of bombs they were using, but you could hear the detonations, you could hear the gunfire, and we could smell the smoke, and we were stuck in this room.
So after that, we were coming towards Parandan, and then we heard this firing. So then we were really shivering. We knew like something really, really happening, like something's happening. While we got to like almost Parandan, because that's where we have to turn to go to Mullaitivu, and that junction. And there was a while like I still can see. So I have this like flashback, I should say. Like there were bodies put into the wall, and then there was some hanging outside the well, and then there were all over Parandan Junction, all over. There were a lot of bodies. Then and then we heard this military coming, like firing, and then the driver said, "Okay, we have to do something." And he drove to like in those like fields, like at the paddy fields and things. That all this, he didn't know where he was going.
இவர் வந்துட்டு எல்லாரும் போய் கிச்சனுக்குள்ளே இருந்து நாங்கள் சின்ன கிச்சன் அப்போ இவர் முன் டோரையும் அமர்த்தி வச்சு கொண்டு இருந்தது மெட்ட டோர்ட்ட ஒரு ஆள் அப்புறம் எல்லாம் அமர்த்தி கொண்டிருக்க ஒரு ஆள் கடைசியாக வந்து ஒரு இலவாங்கலை இடித்தது டோரை அதுக்கு பிறகு அமர்த்தி பிடிச்சி கொண்டு இருந்து பிரியோசனமிட்ட வேறு துறந்துடன்னு சொல்லிட்டார் எங்களை ஒன்றும் செய்ய வேண்டாம் நாங்கள் எங்கிட்ட இருக்கிற எல்லாம் தாரோம்ண்டு அப்போ இவரை கூட்டி கொண்டு அந்த கொரிடோருக்குள்ளால் அங்கே ரூமுக்கு கூட்டி கொண்டு போனார். நான் மாட்டேன்னா இல்லை போங்கன்னு சொல்லி இவர்கிட்ட பிரதர் இருந்தவர், கசின்ஸ், ஆண்டி எல்லாருமே இருந்தது. அப்போ பிரதர் சொன்னார், இல்லை வாங்க நீ அது போகலாம். அவர் அண்ணா வேறு கூட்டி கொண்டு போய் அந்த வீட்டை போய்களையும் படியில் பிளட் ட்ராப்பாக விழுந்து கிடக்கு. அதனால் நான் பயந்து கொண்டு தான் போனேன். நம்ம தான் டாக்டர்கிட்ட போய்க்குள்ள ஒரு எல்லாம் நோமலாக தானே இருந்தது. அன்றைக்கு ஃபீல் பண்ணிட்டேன், மூமெண்ட்ஸ் எல்லாம் குறைஞ்சிட்டுதுண்டு. அப்புறம் அந்த வீட்டில் தான் இருந்தாங்க. டாக்டர்கிட்டையும் எங்களுக்கு போயிட்டுது. என்னோட மூமெண்ட்ஸ் குறைஞ்சிட்டுதுன்ட்டு நான் நல்லா ஃபீல் பண்ணியிருந்தேன். ஆனால் டாக்டர்கிட்ட போக பயந்தானே.
அதோட அட்வைஸ் பண்ணிக்கிறேன். ஃப்ளைட்டில் போச்சு. ஃப்ளைட்டில் போகிறதுக்கு ஃப்ளைட் உடனே புக் பண்ணிடலாம் போச்சு. இனி ஷிப்புக்கு போகிறதுக்கும் பெரிய கஷ்டப்பட்டு தான் நாங்கள்
தெரிஞ்ச
வேற
friends
இன்ஃப்ளூயன்ஸ்
கொண்டு
யூஸ் பண்ணி தான் கிட்டத்தட்ட
ஓரளவு
சீட்டும் இவ்வளோத்துக்கு வெளியாக கிடைக்கலுமோ கிடைச்சு I think 29th or 27th, yeah. Yeah, it took 3 days to reach KKS, no?
ஆகஸ்ட் 4th போயிட்டோம்.
August 4th போனாங்க. அப்போ நாங்கள் 31st தான் மணிக்கிட்ட ஷிப்
ஃபர்ஸ்ட் ஷிப்
போய் பிறகு அங்கே மணிப்பை ஹாஸ்பிட்டலில் அட்மிட் பண்ணி பிள்ளை இறந்து ஸ்டில் போன்.
வீடு எல்லாம் எரியுது. அப்போ அப்பா என்ன செய்தாண்டா, மாமை பின்னால் குசினிக்கு பின்னால் ஒரு மாமரம் இருக்குது, அதில் சாஞ்சி இருந்து கேட்கல ஒரு சிங்களவன் சொன்னான், கேரி தெமலையா தமசில் மெத்தனைன்னா பழைய துவப்பாங்கன்னு சொல்ல அப்பா கையை வச்சு யோசிச்சு கொண்டு என்ன அப்பா கட்டின வீடு எங்களோட சொந்த வீடு. ஆனால் அப்பாவுக்கு இதாக பண்ணோன்னா எங்களோட கடைசி தங்கச்சி எங்களை 4 சகோதரங்கள். நான் தான் வீட்டில் மூப்பு, 2வது தம்பி, 3வது தங்கச்சி, 4வது ஒரு தங்கச்சி. கடைசி தங்கச்சி என்ன செய்தால் உடனே அவருக்கு சிங்களம் கதை தெரியும். அப்போ அவருக்கு வயசு நாளைக்கு ஒரு 9 வயசு இருக்கு. 9 வயசு இருக்கு. அப்போ வரைக்கும் அவ சொன்னாங்க தாத்தாட்டுக்கு ஆண்டேப்பா சொல்ல. அப்போ அவங்க கத்தியவங்க வந்தாங்க. அப்போ தங்கச்சி போய் கட்டி பிடிச்சோடனே தங்கச்சி அவன் விட்டதான் உத்து வைப்பாங்கன்னு சொன்னோன்னே தங்கச்சி அப்பா ஓடிட்டு அங்கால போய் 10 கிலோ ஒழிஞ்சிட்டேன். இப்படி டைம் ஆகுது, 7 8 மணி ஆகணுன்னே எல்லாரும் போயிட்டாங்க. ஆனால் நிற்கிறாங்க இந்த தக்ஸுகள் நின்று சாமான்களை பொறிக்கொண்டு இருக்கிறாங்க.
In Colombo, the violence began with groups of Sinhala mobs arriving from outside the districts, carrying voters' lists to identify Tamil houses, and systematically attacks were made on people and properties.
But what my grandfather said to me was, the guys who came, they were drugged, they were drunk, and they had lists. They had lists of houses and names. They knew which houses were Tamil, and they knew where they had to go, because not a single of the Sinhalese houses were touched. And the only list of that kind is the voters list. They knew where they had to go. These thugs were given. It was a systemic process. It wasn't a retaliation. It wasn't because they just had a bad hair day. It wasn't because they decided this morning we hate the Tamils. They knew they were going out to eradicate the Tamils from Colombo.
So my children and 4 or 5 adults and children and my neighbor, who was a Tamil officer, the army officer, he was not in the house at that time. His wife and children were there. They also ran. When they saw me, my family running, getting out of the house and running away, they also joined us. So we all of us were in the dog's kennel, about I think 17 of us, adults and children, because all the families that were close together ran into that place for safety.
So the first thugs that they came, it seemed like the only agenda was to kill and to burn, to destroy property. So kill and destroy. And then the looters came, the hyenas.
So a lot of people went to the window facing the street and watching. So I also just went out and saw there were a lot of people. Actually, they were having clubs and knives and everything, and they stopped cars and they were talking. The people who were traveling inside the car, and some people were pulled out of the cars and assaulted, and they overturned the cars and set fire to the. I saw 2 or 3 police officers at the junction in front of the lake house, but they didn't take any action to stop them. So I was so scared because I know what is happening. So I went back to my seat and seated. I didn't want to watch anymore because I was so scared.
Agents of the state, such as the army and the police, stood by and did nothing to quell the angry rioting mobs, and some even encouraged the violence.
So we got as many people together, and it was basically at that time our immediate neighbors, basically the women and the children, and my mother took the lead, and we were walking, and that's when I remembered my dog. And I just had a birthday, right? So my grandfather had brought home this puppy for me because I was going to be there for a long period of time. And this would be my dog. That would stay back. Whenever I went back with my parents to Middle East, I would come back and I would have this pet. And I turned around and I ran back into our house on the front gate to get my dog. My mother screamed, "No, don't." And I didn't freeze, I didn't stop because of my mother's scream. I heard her scream. I stopped because that's when I saw the monks coming around the corner. Buddhist bhikkhu monks, head shaven, in their saffron robes, with machetes. On any level, this image is so not right.
Then on the third day, we thought it's not safe to stay there anymore. So we had to go to the camp where all those refugees were there. Actually, the camp was opened at the Hindu College, Bamalapitia, Saraswati Hall, all close by.
Lorries, trucks were being brought in that would take us to a refugee camp. We didn't know who was driving. We didn't know who had organized these trucks. We didn't know which refugee camp, what refugee camp. In Colombo, there were refugee camps. We didn't know where they were going. But we just knew we couldn't stay here. So now the sun had set. It is night time. And we were being loaded into these refugee camps, into these trucks, lorries. They made me stand towards the front of the lorry because it was jam-packed. People were so crushed in there. We were like cattle. We were like swine being taken away. So the truck was going and turning into the Gaur Road. And that's where most of the shops are. There was broken shops, places on fire, and that's when I saw it. This was one of the hardest memories for me to hold, and I can't let go. It's a human form burning. I couldn't tell if it was a male or a female, but all I knew was it was a human form. You could see the head, the body, and the legs. And it was burning, and nobody was doing anything. It's like you would burn garbage. I guess to them Tamils were garbage.
A week of violence left the south engulfed in flames with 3,000 lives lost, thousands more displaced, and the loss of over $1 billion in property. The Sri Lankan government was forced to impose a nationwide curfew to control the violence and to start relief work.
முகாமில் நாங்கள் எல்லாமாக 29,000 பேர்கள் அங்கே இருந்தோம். சரியா, நாங்கள் வீட்டில் இருந்து அந்த முகாமுக்கு வரும் வழியில் எரிந்த கடைகள், எரிந்த வாகனங்கள் எல்லாம் தமிழருக்கு சொந்தமானவை. அதுகளை எல்லாம் கடந்து கொண்டு தான் நாங்கள் உள்ளுக்குள்ளே வந்தோம். அவ்வளவுதான் நாங்கள் கண்ட காட்சிகள். அங்கே 29,000 பேர் அந்த கேம்பில் இருந்த நாங்கள் இருக்கைக்குள்ள 29,000 ஸ்டோரிகளை தனிப்பட்ட ஒவ்வொருத்த ஒரு கட்டு கதைகள் எல்லாம் நேர நடந்த கதைகளை நாங்கள் கேட்டு அறிந்து செலுத்து போனோம். எங்களுக்கு நடந்தது ஒன்றுமில்லை. நாங்கள் அதிர்ஷ்டவசமாக தப்பி வந்த நாங்கள் அங்கே 3,000க்கு மேற்பட்ட ஆக்கள் இறந்தது. அப்படியான செய்திகளை எல்லாம் கேட்டு அறிந்து வந்தோம்.
Actually, when we went to the refugee camp, we didn't take anything, no clothes, nothing. Everything was left over there. Even the school books were. How can we carry?
The refugees, ironically in their own homeland, were kept in 2 makeshift camps and in an airport hangar. In the following weeks, they were grouped in large numbers and shipped to Jaffna in the northern part of Sri Lanka. Contrary to their expectations, these refugees were forced to start a new life in a new land with nothing literally.
I'd faced death. I had nothing else to fear now. Nothing worse could ever happen to me. I am a self-made woman. I am who I am today. I came to Canada because Canada asked me to come.
Canada, we heard Canada is a free country, and then we have freedom in here. It's a very good country for lifestyle. We can live here as peace, with peace and happiness. So we chose to come to Canada.
I'm very patriotic. I'm very proud of the maple leaf. I'm very proud to be a Canadian. But I'm always going to be Tamil.
மனித உரிமைகள் எல்லாம் இங்கே ஒப்பிட்டு பார்க்குற அளவுக்கு அங்கே எதுவும் இல்லை. எங்களை ஒரு மிருகங்களாகவும் ஒரு ஒரு ஜடங்களாகவும் மதித்து கொண்டிருந்த ஒரு நாடு இப்போவும் மதித்து கொண்டிருக்கிறது. இந்த 3000 பேர் இறந்த பின்பும் நான் அங்கே 1.5 வருஷம் இருந்தனால் ஒரு தனிப்பட்ட மனிதனை இந்த குற்றங்களுக்காக பிடித்து வழக்கு தொடர்ந்து விசாரணை செய்து தண்டனை கொடுத்ததாக நான் கேள்விப்படவில்லை. அதாவது தமிழர்களாக இருந்தால் அவர்கள் கொல்லப்பட வேண்டியவர்கள், அவர்களை கொல்லுபவர்கள் எந்த குற்றமும் செய்யாதவர்கள் என்ற மாதிரியான ஒரு இடத்துல இருந்துட்டு நாங்கள் இங்கே வரைக்குள்ள நாங்கள் எவ்வளவோ பாதுகாப்பையும் நாங்கள் உணரக்கூடியதாக இருக்கு.
Actually, we have to thank the Canadian people. Actually, I feel like crying because they helped me a lot. When I came to the border, at the immigration officer, they heard everything, my story, everything, and they said, "Okay, don't worry, you are free to go anywhere in Canada." That's the word I didn't expect. At that time, no problem, nothing. They understand our situation. So I was happy. Immediately I sent a wire to my family, I am here, happy. So I will, soon you will be coming here.
And this land has the capacity to allow me to be bicultural. Because I strengthened this land because of it. I nurture this land. It's my own now. I don't plan on going back to the island, but I will not stop helping those who are there. That's where my roots are, and no one has the right to stop me from helping them.
கனடாவுக்கு போன சர்வைவர்ஸ், அதாவது 1983 ஜூலை, when these people have left the country to survive. They couldn't live in a land where they have been tried to be brutally murdered. They escaped the genocide and sought refuge in Canada. So this story rings a bell to so many other survivors who have been to so many other countries throughout the world. Nearly more than 3,000 people, Tamils, have been slaughtered by Sri Lankan armed forces, Sri Lankan mobs in July 1983. More than 100,000 people has been displaced. More than 8,000 homes have been burnt and destroyed, and 5,000 businesses has been destroyed. So this is and billions of pounds worth of properties have been lost. So where are we? Where is our justice? with that note in mind, we will take the other survivors as well. The next, I have got a story in Tamil of a survivor of her husband and her father was killed within the house in Tirunelveli on the 23rd. And similarly, so many people have been killed in Jaffna by the army personnel. Until now is 36 years on, still we have not got any justice for this genocide. And it is firmly believed that if 1983, if any justice has come in, then we should have avoided the war, which took so many thousands of lives of Tamils, as well as in 2009, more than 150,000 Tamils disappeared and killed. So this should have been avoided. But we don't know why 1983 genocide was taken in as genocide, even though the Prime Minister of India said that it is a genocide, a systematic genocide. And the ICJ, International Commission of Jurors, said it is a genocide. So why? The question for everybody, why it has not been taken up by anyone, any Tamil community leaders, to ask for justice until now. We are talking about justice for the genocide of Tamils, but it is mostly focused on 2009 and 2002, 2009. But what happened to Tamils from 1956 onwards, or even 1948, where the disenfranchisement of the upcountry Tamils, that was also a genocide. Even in 1921, when the attack happened for Muslims, the first attack, it was also a part of a plan of genocide. So we had to take everything together so that we can make this known to the world. It is the duty of every Tamil to fight for their rights and fight for the justice of their own kith and kin. If we don't do that, then where do we as a community, a Tamil community, a proud Tamil community, why are we only keeping ourselves living? It is for you to remember these events. This is why it has this 36th years this week, during this week where all this incident happens. So we will have a break and meet again with a story. Thank you.